Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fan Interference with Wichita Wingnuts manager Pete Rose Jr. Fan Interference is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Wichita manager questions about the Wingnuts, baseball or sports in general, or just seek Pete's wisdom about life events that are going on out there. In this week's episode, Pete talks to us about his most recent ejections. He tells us of his surprise at seeing the Reds, Pirates, and Cardinals struggling so far in Major League Baseball this season. And Pete explains to us that there are some names that are just a little bit too ridiculous. So let's get right to Fan Interference. So let's welcome back Manager Pete Rose Jr. Pete, do you have any team updates for us?
No, not really. We're just, moving along, getting, close to a month in, and, the guys are doing well. Guys are throwing it, guys are hitting it, guys are catching it. We got off to a better start this year, which is good. But everything's going well, man. I can't complain. I mean, guys are playing hard, and we've been on time. So, we're on our so-called long trip before the long trip. So we got 2 more here in Kansas City, and then off to Dallas for 3, and then home for a while. So everything's going good.
Before heading into fan questions, I wanted to ask you first about the bullpen has been really solid for you, but had a couple of tough outings the last 2 outings for you. Is there any cause for concern for you at this point?
No, it's funny on how everybody, once you have a couple hiccups, so to speak, everybody wants to, hit the panic button. Not saying anybody is, on the inside, but I know how people are, and that just lets everybody know that our bullpen's human. I mean, you go from a bullpen last year with, our closer, who Seth Harvey was the 7th inning guy, to Chad Nading to Frankie Reed. I think you're going to go through some hiccups trying to find your way and trying to figure out what your bullpen is going to be like this year. But guys are doing a great job. We got a couple guys that J.J. Campbell coming back. He took last year off. Harv was kind of hurt last year. Not the majority of the year, but got hurt late. So they're doing a great job. It's just it's a matter of finding the strike zone and throwing strikes and pitching the contact, and I think these guys will start to do it, and once they start to do it, we should be fine. I mean, we got a couple young guys down there. Austin Boyle's done a great job. He was in the Pecos League last year, and he's came in and just done nothing but positive things and thrown the ball really well, which is very excited. Another rookie that Josh proceeds to bring into camp and get on our club. You throw in him, and you throw in Goose and Brown, you throw in, Prigatano, Salgado, Jesse Pratt. Those are really good rookies. So, but we're going to be all right. It's just, it's 2 games. It's not the end of the world. We would like to want them, of course, but, today's a new day, and they'll be ready to go out there, and they'll get behind Coop, and, we'll expect another good quality start out of Coop. He's been throwing the ball well, so, they'll find their way. They'll be okay.
The one thing I would think you'd have to be really happy about is the way that the team has been heating up at the plate. Is this just part of getting back into the routine for you, do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Robert, it's funny because I think at the beginning of the year, and it's really easy to do, and have I done it? Of course. I think you kind of go back to last year, and you think you have to be this high-powered offense and da-da-da, and I think at the beginning we were just trying to do a little too much. And, guys were scoring position, trying to get everybody in instead of just either trying to get him over or trying to get him in. But, our guys are professional guys, and they know what to do, and they come to the ballpark every day, want to play for one another. And, they just they'll figure it out. You just try to stay out of the way, like we talked about it numerous times here on the show. And that's all I've been trying to do. And guys will start hitting as long as they just, if you got a guy, let's say Stringer, if he doesn't really have to worry about getting the guy in because he's got, Cleve behind him, and then Cleve can just be himself, because if he doesn't do it, TJ's behind him. And if TJ doesn't do that, then, you got Chavi behind him. So, once they started to realize that, they, kind of started to relax, at the plate and just got back to being themselves. And sure enough, here comes the 19, 15, the 10. We put up 8 last night. We put up, I think, 6 2 nights ago. So, we're going to hit that. That's what we do. And, being a position player, obviously that's what I like to preach. How I feel about pitchers, obviously being taught that way and raised that way. But, we're going to hit, man. I mean, that's what we do, and we take pride in it. And they're just kind of relaxing and just kind of settling in. But I think maybe we were hitting a little too much at the beginning, and we kind of backed off a little bit. So we'll try to continue it.
Well, let's head to fan questions this week. The first is from Chris from Wichita. He would like to know, he says, when you release a player and they start to do really well, what is the percentage that you are happy for them, that they are doing well, and what is the percentage that you are unhappy because you wonder why they couldn't do that for you?
I think, you're always happy for a player that you release if he figures it out. And, it's the thing is it's never personal. It's always business, so to speak. And you want all your players to do good, whether they're on your team or they're not on your team, because if they come to work and they do the best they can, and they play hard for you. You always want success, and you want your guys when you bring in to do good, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So you got to get other guys in to fill the void. But whenever you release somebody, it's the toughest thing a manager has to do. I mean, that's the line from Bull Durham, but it's the truth, man. It's not fun to do because it's the worst part of the bad part of the business, but it's just kind of part of it. But you hate to release somebody, but when you do, you try to if it's in spring training, you try to figure out if there's another spot you can find for them, or you wish them the best, and if you can do anything for them, you try to do whatever you can just to give them another opportunity somewhere down the road.
Jason from Mays would like to know, what are some areas where you would like to see improvement with the team?
I think you can improve, in all aspects of the game. I think you can improve with defensive end, base running end, pitching end. It's a daily thing. You just want to just continue to get better, and I think we're gonna do that. I think the more you play, we play with one another. I think that's what I like so much about kind of the majority of players coming back, especially position players from last year, is they got a feel on what guys can do and what they can't do. And, I think obviously you want to get better at everything. You want to work on everything throughout the course of a year. But, we'll be fine. I mean, these guys come to work and they work. And it's not like, they come in and just kind of throw it out there. I mean, they come in and work hard and they play hard. And but I think we can improve on every aspect of the game, and I think we will.
Charlie from Wichita asks, he says, Pete, I don't know what happened a couple of weeks ago, but I don't get those umpires ejecting you from those games. It seems like they are just gunning for you.
That might be my favorite question ever. But, I don't know. It's one of those things to where, I don't know. Maybe it's the 11 times last year, or maybe I have a bad reputation, or whatever. I try to defend my guys, and I'd rather, like we've talked about before, I'd rather it be me to get kicked out than my guys to get kicked out. But, when you have calls that just really don't make any sense, or if, somebody wants to come down and get in the middle of something that they shouldn't be in the middle of, you kind of wonder. But, I don't think they're gunning for me. If they are, great. I mean, it's not a big deal to me. We're gonna do what we do every other day, and that's be on time and play hard. And we don't really pay them much attention, but oh well, I missed 2 games and I got kicked out twice. I got to watch Disney with my daughter in my office, so that should tell you right there. It's it's funny with me, Robert, is once it's over and done with. Tomorrow's a new day. You get up and you go to the ballpark, and everything's done and over with. So it is what it is. You can't do nothing about it, but I'm not going to change for anybody by any means, especially when it comes to, having my guys back, and I'm just going to keep doing what I do.
I think that's the most surprising part of this to you personally, just from what I know about you, is that when umpires seem to be holding a grudge of some kind, you've forgotten about stuff that happened, even the night before. It's like, hey, look, okay, that happened yesterday, now let's move on to today. And when things go on like that, I think that you look at that and go, man, that was yesterday. What's your problem?
But you have to, because it's baseball, and it's it's not like the NFL where you have a week to stew about it or what have you. Gotta put it past you, and it's kind of when I was younger, I just if my dad had that 0 for 4 that came once every blue moon, so to speak, because he's got 15,000 hits. You would never know it, because he would come out of the ballpark to where you would think that he was 4 for 4, or he was 0 for 4. He was the same. He left everything at the ballpark, and he taught me that at a young age. And you know, the same thing when it comes to situations like that. I mean, you know, baseball is baseball. It's what we just said about releasing guys. It's just business. It's not personal. And the thing is you know, they make mistakes, and I understand that, and I don't expect them to be perfect. And you know, there's a guy in the league last year that's in organized ball now, was one of my favorite. You know, hey, I missed a call. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to turn right around and walk right back in. And you know, sometimes you got to do it just because you know, your player thinks he's right. But I don't hold a grudge. I mean, it's kind of stupid too. I think once you get it out, it's over and done with, and you know, you move on. And I think the reason that too is, you know, your team needs you the next day. And you know, but like I said, if I can prevent one of those guys from getting fined or kicked out, I'd rather it be me than one of my guys, because they need to play. I can't play anymore, unfortunately. But it's just, you know, it's how I am. It's my nature. It's you know, it's just baseball. I mean, it's just, I don't know any other way. I'm not one of those guys that hold a grudge. So you know, just you hope they don't, and I don't think they do, just because your players will kind of you know, you don't want them to suffer from anything. But it's been okay. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, that was a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, over and done with. And like I said, I got to watch Disney with my daughter for 2 nights in my office. So yeah, it wasn't a bad thing at all.
Related to that, Linda from Arkansas City would like to know. She says, Pete, does your wife give you advice on how not to get ejected, like to count to 10 or anything like that?
She gets mad. She gets mad when I get ejected. I think my daughter likes it the best. My son and my daughter like it the best. My wife doesn't like it. She gets all mad, and you know, she gets embarrassed, so to speak. But you know, I guess that's not the rose in her coming out. I guess my 2 kids have it. You know, they got that rose gene. But you know, she'll tell me it's embarrassing sometimes, and she doesn't understand. And then when you kind of explain to her, and then she'll kind of figure it out, and she'll get it, and she'll understand. But she's you know, she's not freaked out. But on the other hand, she don't mind if I go in there and watch, you know, Disney with my daughter. Sit there and watch my son screw around in the field. So it works itself out. You know what I mean?
Ted from Stillwater would like to know. He says, you must be happy that your team does not play in the 2 worst stadiums this season. I would think that you had to worry about injuries a lot last season playing in those 2 parks.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, I think you worry about injuries in any parks, but I just think it's probably better for the league, just because you know, you go to those 2 places and then you show up in here, let's say in Kansas City or St. Paul or Fargo or Winnipeg or Gary. I mean, those are legit ballparks. I mean, they can be every bit a AAA ballpark. So I think you want to set a good standard for the league as far as places to play. And you know, being a former player, I wouldn't want to play it on stuff. Have I played on worse? Yes, absolutely. But you know, it's just a bad deal all the way around. And you know, I'm glad they're in Grand Prairie now for the whole time. And you know, I like I said before, I didn't really mind going to Joplin. I thought the surface was okay. The town was great. But obviously being in Claiborne with a brand new stadium and everything else, and I've heard none but great things about that place. So I think it all kind of worked itself out.
You know, a lot of people are making a big deal about how the way that the right field angles up, and if the fans haven't seen it, it's much like you would see in the Houston Astros ballpark, but even more severe. Is that a concern for a player, or you learn to play that well?
You know, I just think once you get to a ballpark, obviously where you're going to play, you kind of figure out your surroundings, and you just go play. I mean, I don't really think you worry about it. I want to say the Astros took that out. I remember old Crosley Field had a terrace out in, I think, left field. So, you know, we haven't been there yet, and I've heard nothing. Like I said, I've heard nothing but great things about it. I know it's all turf. They say the locker room is fantastic. But, you know, if it is, it is. I mean, I guess you got to just kind of figure out when you get there and just kind of just go out and play and not worry about it. I think once you start worrying about stuff, that may be when you have a better chance of getting hurt instead of just going out and playing. So, but, you know, we'll check it out when we get there, and I'm sure, you know, Sal or Cleve, who's ever in left, if it's in left or right, if it's Prig, I'm sure they'll play the same. But I don't think you worry about it as a player, though, to be honest with you.
Benny from Wichita would like to know, how disruptive is it for a team when your ace, a guy like Matt Harvey, is kind of doing his own thing?
You know, I don't really think it has to be your ace. I think if anybody's kind of doing their own thing, and don't get me wrong, you know, players do, you know, their own routines to get ready for the game. But I think once, you know, once that situation kind of creeps in, I don't think it's a very good thing. I think I would be worried about it just because, you know, you want to feel as a team. You want to feel like everybody's equal, everybody's part of something. And you know, when one guy thinks he's bigger than the team, it's usually not a good recipe for wins on the field. So I would definitely be concerned about it. But you know, I think if anybody can redeem himself, so to speak, I think the Dark Knight should be one to do it.
Owen from Park City asks, he says the Reds, Pirates, and Cardinals are all under 500. That just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, it's a strange year in the Central. I mean, you know, I kind of knew the Reds were going to struggle just because of rebuilding, but I mean, the Pirates are a shock, and I mean, you look at the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals have been good for, I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, they just find a way to win, and they always have good players. So, what a strange year in the NL Central. I mean, it's, you know, it's up for grabs, and I think it's, the last time I checked, I want to say the bottom team is what, like 5.5 games out, or something crazy like that. It's nuts. So, being a Reds fan, I guess I like it because, you know, it's June and we're not out of it yet. So, I guess, you know, Reds fans, we got something to, you know, still root for, I guess.
Brad from Wichita asks, he says, doesn't it seem childish that Hunter Strickland hit Bryce Harper with a pitch because he was mad about homers that he gave up to him 3 years ago in the playoffs?
Yeah, you know, that's another situation to where, you know, if you want to hit the guy, you know, hit the guy that's next at bat after he hit the home run off for you. But you know what? You know, it's kind of the unwritten rule with baseball, but I mean, to wait that long and you know, I don't know. I think it was kind of, you don't pitch him there. Obviously, you've given up a couple, maybe not pitch him there next time, but you know, I think if you pitch it there, he's going to hit it. So what do you expect him to do? But you know, he took exception to it, and he did it. I'll tell you one good thing, he did it the right way. He hit him, you know, below the head, and actually hit him, you know, kind of in the waist, which was okay. But you know, I've seen worse. But I think if you're going to do it, if you got a problem with a guy, I think you do it as quick as you can. You don't let it linger for, you know, what, a year or 2 years or whatever it is, and just kind of get it out of the way and move on. But you know, I would just say, hey, don't throw it there, or, you know, pitch around him, or do something different. You know, don't let him keep hitting the homers off of you. So, but it was a good fight, man. I'll give it that. I mean, you know, Samardzija came in there and knocked out Michael Morris, his own player, and you know, that was a good one. I haven't seen one like that in a while. That was pretty impressive.
You know, I have to ask you, because the big discussion about that fight was the fact that Posey didn't get up to block Harper from charging the mound. And there, you know, a lot of discussion about whether he was kind of using his, you know, he was looking at it and going, this was just wrong that you hit this guy, so I'm not really covering you. But as a manager, how would you feel if your catcher didn't defend your pitcher that way?
You know, I think it needs to be addressed, just because, you know, I think, but, you know, then again, I mean, if you look at the Giants, they're not playing the way that they should be playing. I think if you have a group of guys that generally care and want to play for one another, all the great teams that do, I don't think you have to worry about that. But I think you would address it and just, you know, maybe figure out why. I mean, you know what, if you're not going to do anything, you know, don't act like you're not going to do anything. Go act like you're doing something. You can stand in the back and, you know, you can dance with somebody or pull somebody off or something like that. But it was just really strange. I mean, you would never think, you know, a catcher, you know, would let, you know, regardless of what the situation was, would let a guy get out there to his pitcher. I mean, I've never seen that before. I've never seen a catcher not jump on a hitter when he's, you know, trying to charge him out or whatever, just try to break it up. But I'm sure Bochy, you know, addressed that and figured out what happened, and you know, hopefully they moved on from it. But it was kind of strange to see. You know, I think we were in the clubhouse at home when it happened, and it was just, you just go back and look at it, and you just kind of think, you know, what's going on there? What are you thinking about? But he's got his reasons, and you know, hey, he did what he thought that was best for him. I probably would have handled it different. I probably would have tried to grab Harper and not him to get to my pitcher. I know playing first base or third base, if that would have happened, I tried to get to the mound as quick as I can, and you know, try to stop him from getting to our guy. And that's just kind of how I was brought up and how I played the game. But it is what it is, I guess. I guess you can't change it, but I know if it was my club, I would have addressed it for sure.
Staying on the fight, Shermask, he says, I think Bryce Harper is a great player, but that helmet throw after he was hit by a pitch was terrible. Bryce needs some work on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, too, Robert. If you're going to charge him out, don't charge it with a bat. Don't charge it with a helmet. Don't. I understand you just got hit with a baseball and what have you, but go out and get him with your two hands, and whatever happens after that happens. But he's right. He is an unbelievable player, unbelievable talent, but he might need to work on his, I don't want to say maybe his boomerang tosses or whatever, if you're going to throw the helmet like one of those, like a Frisbee or whatever. But, hey, just put the helmet down and, basically keep it on. It may help you out there, but, go get him with the two fists you have and see what happens.
Trevor from Emporia asks, he says, you were talking last week about how guys chase the ring when their careers are winding down because they want the title. Hearing that made me wonder if you think that a guy like Adrian Peterson made a big mistake signing with the Saints instead of going to someplace like New England or Green Bay.
Obviously he had his reasons, and as a player, I guess you can't fault that. But if I'm going to chase a ring in the NFL, I think I'm going to give the Patriots probably a really good look. I'm going to give the Cowboys a really good look. But me personally, I'm probably going to end up signing back with the Bengals just because I think that we have a chance, and we're going to win a ring in Cincy here shortly. So I did think he made the wrong decision. He should have came with the Who Day. I think they could have fit him in, in the backfield. Now you had Joe Mixon. You got Jeremy Hill and Gio coming back off an injury. So I'll say he did make a big mistake. He should have came to Cincy. That's where I would have went. You knew that was going there, Robert. You knew it was going there, man.
Maybe Trevor knew that too. Next up is Greg from Salina, who wants to know. He says, "Why does it seem that left-handers pull the ball a lot more than righties? Or am I wrong about that?"
I think it's wrong about that. Just because the thing with hitting is the easiest pitch to hit is the fastball inside because you just react to it. And if you get a guy off the street that's never hit before. Or if you get a guy at work that's never hit before and you throw him some pitches, let's say you throw him 10 pitches, he's probably going to pull 7 or 8 of those just because of reaction. I think that's just a misconception that people see. But now, on the other hand, the reason maybe you see that is maybe because there's more right-handed pitching, so the breaking ball is going away from you. So maybe they're hitting the ball more towards the middle, towards right center, as opposed to, being a left-hander, the breaking ball is coming into you. So, you have a better chance at pulling it. So, I don't think it's a misconception. It may be a little bit, but I think it's maybe because, you see more righties facing righties. If you're talking about hitters, the majority of the pitchers are right-handed, so I think the breaking ball kind of goes away from them, so they're kind of hitting the ball the other way, so that's probably why it doesn't look like they pull as much.
I wonder if people have that impression, too, because you see the shift go on with some left-handed hitters, but you obviously can't have a shift against a right-handed guy.
Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. And you're probably right. I mean, that's probably, it's funny you said that because I would have never thought that until you just said that, and that would be my answer is that's probably the misconception right there is because you're right. Everybody shifts towards the lefties and nobody does it to the righties. You're exactly right.
Matt would like to know, he says, do you want your power hitters looking to move runners over if a guy is on second and there's no one out, or are you always expecting them to look to drive the runner in?
Well, if you ask any of my guys on my team, we play ball. And if you have to, I've always said this, if you watch the game, if you pay attention, it'll tell you what you need to do, meaning the game will tell you where to hit it, where to throw it, when to run, where to throw it, that type of deal. So if we get guys on second base with nobody else, it doesn't matter if it's our leadoff guy, our 9 guy, our 4 guy, our 5. You got to play the game of baseball, and the game of baseball says to get him over so your teammate can drive him in. Now, if you happen to drive him in by going the other way and you get him over and get him in, okay, that's a bonus. But we definitely play the game the way it's supposed to be played, and especially it doesn't matter if you're a power guy or a slap guy or a line drive hitter. A runner on second, you got to get him over. I don't care how you do it. I'm not going to put the bunt sign on probably 100 out of 100 times to do it because I think as players you need to learn how to do that. Doing it without bunting. So I expect them to try to get him over. Obviously once you get to 2 strikes, it may change a tad, but I still think you keep trying to get them over because, you know, you get them over, it's an RBI for your teammate, and you know, you're trying to win the ball game. So you got to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. So I want our guys, and they know that. I expect them to try to get them over, regardless of who it is that's played.
Phil from Wichita would like to know from you. He says, by what I read in the rules, it looks like there should be a lot more balks called in games than there are. Do you agree?
I lost my speed at birth, Robert, so I wasn't a base stealer. I just hit doubles. So I couldn't really tell you what a balk is, what to look for. I think when guys start calling too many balks, I think they get involved in the games. And obviously if you don't stop, and then the left-hander is obviously the tough one that you got to watch. But, you know, if we're going to start talking about balks, then I guess they're probably going to have, robots for umpires at some point. But I think they do a good job as far as, you know, calling balks and not calling balks and that type of deal. But I've never been a base stealer. So, you know, I ran the bases, obviously, and I was aggressive on the base, and I ran them hard. But as far as stealing and getting jumps like that, I was more of a secondary lead guy, a first to third guy once I tried to get up and moving. And, you know, I just hope I didn't stop and, played the piano that I was carrying on my back between second and third, and I could make it. So, but I think they do a pretty good job at doing, you know, what they're doing now.
Tricia from Louisville would like to know, are there standard places that you like to eat at when you're out on the road, or do you try to sample many different things?
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother can of worms there. I remember us talking about the superstitions of a baseball player. Especially at home, obviously when you have a car, if you eat somewhere for lunch, you're probably going to go back the next day. If you eat the same place at night after the game, you're probably going to go back to the same place. At home, I'm a Chipotle Sonic kind of guy, and on the road, it kind of depends on where we're at, but usually it's Domino's Pizza after the game. So I try to eat there. Only Domino's on the road, obviously, but I'm a Chipotle and a Sonic kind of guy, at home, just because I got a car and I can get there and just kind of stay in the routine. But if we lose, I'll go to different places and go there and try new things. And if we win, I'll be back there the next day. So, it's superstitious, man. It's really superstitious.
So what you're saying is the owner of a restaurant in an opposing city, if you ate there for dinner, should be hoping you guys win because you'll be back there the next day. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely. 1,000%. Lunch and dinner. You got it. No two ways around it. We had a Panda Express today for lunch. So if we win today, obviously we have a day game tomorrow. So, I'm probably not going to be able to eat there tomorrow. So maybe we'll have to find one in Texas or whatever. But I'm going to Raising Cane's when we get to Texas. There's no two ways around that. So, and we lost a couple games there. So I'm gonna skip that just because that's one of my favorite spots.
Our last question is from a guy identifying himself as Just Plain Bill. He says, Pete, don't you hate it when people give their kids cute names because they think it is cute, but they don't think of how the kid will be treated? My aunt just named my cousin Snooky, and I have a friend whose parents named him Famous. Isn't that just asking for him to be beat up?
I mean, I would just go with what you just said to me. Just stay plain, and you're going to be okay with that. I mean, if you go with a Bill or Ted or a Rick, I think you got a bright future. But if you're named Famous, you better be able to do something special, so to speak. But hey, man, everybody's got their own kids. They got their own names, and if that's what they want to name them, then hey, go get it done and let them enjoy it. So, but stay plain. Let's just put it that way.
Great advice, Pete. Thanks for joining us this week.
All right, man. We'll talk to you next week.
We want to thank Manager Pete Rose Jr. for joining us on Fan Interference this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Wingnuts manager, please send them to us at askpete@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's askpete@minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so we can give Pete a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. We'll see you next time on Fan Interference.